$80 million for an actor, $70 million for re-edits, and beautifully rendered mermaids are just some of the ways these are the most expensive movies to ever come out of Hollywood. Who would have thought you could spend $422 million, in today's money, making a fourth movie based on an amusement park ride? Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides is the most expensive movie to date in 2022, and brought in over $1 billion at the box office, making the gamble worth it for Disney. Being the first in the film series to use 3D cameras, similar to the ones used in Avatar, and help justify some premium IMAX 3D ticket prices, 10 companies were involved with the film's visual effects. Some of the 1,112 shots of CGI included complicated water effects and digital ships. They may have invested so much in CGI because they learned the harsh lessons of 1995's Waterworld, the former big-budget heavyweight champ which cost $300 million to make in today's money. Waterworld was shot almost entirely at sea instead of in studios or just off the coast, where it's much safer. Waterworld's cast and crew were very suddenly thrust into horrid sea conditions off the coast of Hawaii as if they really were seasoned seamen and sea women. Illnesses ran rampant. The boat-carrying actors Jean Triplehorn and Tina Mahanero fell apart and almost drowned them. Veteran stuntman Laird Hamilton got lost at sea and eventually found, and the lead actor himself almost died from being blasted with seawater while he was suspended 40 feet in the air. All this and a lot more bulked up the number of shoot days and overall cost of the Kevin Costner epic. So yeah, not too much filming at sea for On Stranger Tides. They also rendered major environmental extensions to enhance the story. Changing weather conditions, making cliffs and waterfalls weren't cheap or easy to put together to help moviegoers suspend their disbelief. The mermaids at Whitecap cost a pretty penny to bring alive. They were portrayed by 8 models on land, as well as 22 Olympic-caliber synchronized swimmers, stunt doubles, and silicone sculptures. Oh yeah, and did we mention that over 13% of the film's budget went to Johnny Depp himself? That's $55.5 million. Like the Christian Dior Sauvage rock star really needed the cash, right? But as we all know, it's not all about who needs it most, but who sells the most tickets. And the Depp man's name on the marquee opens up those wallets real wide. The film in the series that it preceded, At World's End, also cost a hefty $362 million adjusted for today's dollars back in 2007, making it the third most expensive movie of all time. The second, some would argue, is 1963's Cleopatra. The ancient Egyptian epic starred the biggest star in Hollywood at the time, Elizabeth Taylor. $44 million at the time, and $339.5 million in 2022 was the production budget that made it so. Although it's hard to compare since so much has changed in filmmaking since JFK was president. No computer-generated images back then. It was all shot on costly celluloid, and all those hundreds and maybe even thousands of extras were really there at the time of shooting. No CGI crowds in those days. Before the $356 million Endgame and the $316 million Infinity War, there was the $386 million Age of Ultron. The 2015 equivalent of taking all your Marvel toys and smashing them together, is still the most expensive movie in the world's most valuable franchise. The MCU has raked in almost $23 billion as of 2021 and continues to grow, with the Eternals and Spider-Man No Way Home still in some theaters at the time of writing. What costs so much? Well, over 3,000 visual effect shots and 10 different visual effects companies play into it. And the 15,000 people who worked on this film obviously didn't do it for free. Practical effects took some serious greenbacks to pull off, like the scene where a truck cab flips over a bus was all done with real machines, as well as the car crashes done in traffic scenes. The biggest expense? That final CGI battle. The flying AI robot army versus the Avengers in the fictional nation of Sokovia was overwhelming. Maybe a little confusing at times, but made the $20 premium ticket prices seem a little more worth it. Oh yeah, and Robert Downey Jr.'s $80 million paycheck is well worth noting as well. If Thanos were aware of the swollen costs, he would have snapped his fingers and cut that budget in half. Age of Ultron still has a cult following though, and has a special and unique place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It still raked in $1.4 billion though, justifying the XXL MCU budgets to come. On the other side of the superhero pond, Warner Brothers' 2017 Justice League was the $307 million answer to Disney's MCU. The DC Extended Universe film only took in $657 million at the box office. Brothers, making it a relative fail as many suspect that when you factor in the unpublished enormous marketing budget, Warner Brothers probably found themselves looking at a $100 million loss. Since so much rides on the success of this mega superhero franchise for Warner Brothers, including the sales of toys, posters, Warner Brothers interactive video games, and tons of other merchandising, as well as future ticket sales for movies like The Flash, The Suicide Squad, and Wonder Woman movies, amongst others, were also in jeopardy. So they made the risky and expensive decision to double down on a sort of revival. Justice League is the only film on this list to get a $70 million reboot only 4 short years later with its Snyder Cut. The 4x3 frame, 4-hour and 2-minute recut HBO Max release filled in story gaps, had redone some special effects, and featured new scenes, with some of those scenes even reshot with characters not previously in the film, like Jared Leto's Joker. Warner Brothers' Redemption song was very well received and helped create higher hopes for more DCEU films in the future, estimated at costing $275 to $300 million. Solo, a Star Wars story, is surprisingly the most expensive of all 12 theatrically released Star Wars films. The space western film did change directors mid-shoot, with Chris Lord and Christopher Miller being fired and replaced by Hollywood veteran Ron Howard, who insisted on expensive reshoots and a creative vision more in line with that of the producers. Many suspect Lucasfilms' heavy hand in the film's creative direction led to it being the lowest performing film of all the franchise. Han Solo's backstory film grossed only $393.2 million worldwide, making it the first Star Wars film to be a box office bomb when you factor in the marketing budget, as it's estimated to have lost close to $77 million. The Rise of Skywalker, the latest film in the now almost 44-year-old main Star Wars storyline, cost $275 million to make. That's a far cry from A New Hope's $11 million budget in 1977, which adjusted to 2022 money is about $45 million, just a little less than The Sopranos prequel, The Many Saints of Newark's $50 million budget. Whoa. A New Hope earned $460 million in 77, $1.5 billion in today's cash, whereas The Rise of Skywalker pulled in just over $515 million back in 2019. It is difficult to compare, as it was a different time which the original was considered to be ahead of, whereas Solo as well as The Rise of Skywalker are generally perceived to be just another installment in their time. You know what I mean? All 12 films cost an estimated $1.6 billion to make and brought in $10,318 million at the box office. Factor in merch sales, as you know, you can get a Star Wars anything from underwear to dog costumes, and you're looking at an exorbitant amount of money. Disney's John Carter was a $307 million sci-fi epic that shot for the stars. Oscar-winning director Andrew Stanton, of Finding Nemo and WALL-E fame, directed the adaptation of writer Edgar Rice Burroughs' A Princess of Mars series. On the surface, the film had everything it needed to be a box office smash, including a bright young star named Taylor Kitsch as its lead, but failed to deliver at the billion-dollar mark it needed to be considered a success, as its fellow 2012 release The Avengers did, raking in $1.5 billion. John Carter grossed $281 million worldwide, and when you factor in the huge Disney-level marketing costs, the film is estimated to have lost $200 million, making it one of Hollywood's most prolific flops in its 112-year or so history. Disney was hoping to launch a new franchise with 9 books' worth of material to draw from, but scrapped it based on its poor performance at the box office, and they reverted the rights of the novel back to Edgar Rice Burroughs' estate. Why did it fail so hard? Audiences felt the characters fell flat and wooden. The alien planets unremarkable, and the story was found to be confusing, weird, and not really worth the mental effort to decipher. It seems that movies that do really well at the box office, including a few that we've mentioned, have clear, simple stories. It's like Steve Jobs and many others over the years have said, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Unlike Waterworld, John Carter doesn't fall into that rare category of bad movie you don't regret seeing because of the spectacle of it. It falls into the don't waste your money or your time, nothing to see here movies. Even the Dr. Seuss-based The Lorax film outperformed John Carter at the time. Still, like the real Titanic, John Carter remains in the public consciousness because of how big it went and how big it failed. Speak of the devil, the simple love story told in James Cameron's Titanic cost $200 million to make in '97. That's about $312 million today. That's one of the rare movies that saw costs flying out of control and the director putting out a cut producers thought way too long to actually succeed, and in the end it brought in $2.2 billion at the box office. Good for them.